Hey, ready, babes? Welcome back to the podcast where we are done with dieting and we're losing weight for the last time. And if you're new, you might be wondering, wait a minute, if I'm not dieting, how am I going to lose this weight? Well, you're going to lose it by actually learning how to eat in a healthy way. Duh, not just how to eat healthy or diet foods. But seriously, think about it. How long have you ever stuck to a diet? Even if you are someone who managed to do a diet for months or a year even, are you still doing it? Probably not. In fact, you might feel more out of control around food now than you did when you started that diet. So we know that they're not sustainable. They are not helping us figure this out long term. The ready to lose method will. It will do those things for you, which, by the way, if you haven't yet, this is your sign, this is your moment to grab your free Get Started guide with the link in the show notes so you can get started losing weight with this method, with these tools too. Everything we learn here on the podcast is based on the habits in that freebie. You do need both, okay? It's awesome to be here each week listening, and I'm so grateful, so grateful that you guys are here, so excited that y'all are here every week, but you also need to be doing the habits. So go grab it. I also have another freebie in the show notes too. It's from episode 233, Healthy Girl Rebrand. So the free guide has the habits, the free rebrand has the mindset, and then you have the podcast to put it all together each week. So do it, take the plunge, go download your free resources, your free tools, and see how simple weight loss can be for you. See what I did there with the Take the Plunge reference for the title of this episode? But before we get into today's topic, I have to share something crazy with you, something really wild, okay? It's already wild to me that so many of you tune into this podcast and then we hang out together each week, like across the globe, y'all. I've met people from parts of Europe, Australia, Canada, all over the US, just from chatting here each week. And guys, something even more unbelievable than that happened this week. You want to know what it is? One of my old high school classmates found the podcast. Now, this might not seem like an out there idea for y'all, but I sometimes repost Instagram stories to my Facebook page, but overall, I'm not very active on Facebook. So I just assume that nobody is finding me on there, which I know is a mistake. I know some of y'all have found me on Facebook, but I was looking at my messages earlier today and I got a request from an old classmate, and she said, "Hey, Billy, I'm not sure if you read your messages at all," which, by the way, I'm not the best at, I will admit, but I did read hers today. But she said, "I'm not sure if you checked them, but I wanted to reach out to you for a couple of things. I'm not sure if you remember, but my name is," she told me her full name, "and I was in your graduating class of 2010. I listen to podcasts sometimes and came across yours and started listening to it, and it is amazing," which was so cool that she thought so and found it. But she said, "Unfortunately, I've been struggling with my weight lately and trying to find a nice podcast to listen to motivate me to treat myself better and lose weight. When I first saw it pop up, I'm like, is that Billy from my class? And when I looked up your Facebook, it sure was." And then she went on to tell me some more updates about her life, which was so cool. And it just lit me up inside. That was so freaking awesome to see. And again, it might not seem that wild to some of y'all, but when I started posting online about my own weight loss and started the podcast, I was just hoping I could help like one person. But I always imagined that person being someone I didn't know yet. Because even back then, I didn't believe that people in my own personal life would want to listen. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Like I've gotten coached on this a lot, but there's a lot of reasons why. And a big one, and this happens with weight loss too, is that the people in your life know you a certain way. And so when you're making a big change in your life, whether you're switching careers, whether you lose weight, whether you're like eating differently, it can feel harder to do. It doesn't have to be harder, but it can initially feel harder to do around people who already know you because they already know you a certain way. Right? So that's kind of how I approached my business even. I was like, okay, people in my life are probably not going to want to hear from me because they know me as Billy the OT, Billy the gal with ADHD who's like a little bit of a mess sometimes. They are not seeing me as Billy the coach. And obviously now a lot of my friends do see me that way because I've been doing this for years now, right? I've spent as much time coaching as I have as an occupational therapist. Not with school and everything, but in terms of my working career. But anyway, so I figured people in my own personal life like wouldn't want to listen, Or, on the other hand, I was nervous because you hear those horror stories about people who start posting online and then get bullied or picked on by people in their life. So even after 5 years of doing this, I still don't think I have ever believed that someone in my own personal life, personal history would listen and benefit from the podcast. I know it's really bizarre saying that out loud. I can see how messed up that is, and I even know people in my personal life who listen to the podcast and are benefiting from it, but getting this message was just kind of like shocking to me. But yeah, how strange is it that it's almost more believable to me now that someone in Australia is listening to the podcast, but not someone from my high school, right? Anywho, it was a fun new experience to add to the list. And so thank you again for being here each week, for listening and sharing the podcast or leaving reviews, or just being an example of what Ready to Lose can do for women who are tired of dieting. And if you have ever messaged me, thank you, thank you, thank you. Your messages mean the world to me. Like I said, I'm not always the best at responding, but I love hearing how you're changing your lives with these tools. I don't always get back to every message, but I am reading them and I appreciate them so freaking much. And you are the reason I'm sure that Spotify recommended my podcast to this old classmate. It is just wild. So thank you for celebrating that with me. Now let's get into today's topic, which is taking the plunge. Dun, dun, dun. It sounds intimidating, doesn't it? So the point of this episode is to convince you to take that next step in your journey. Because one thing I know to be true is that change is scary. Even something as simple as planning your food each day or leaving 2 bites on your plate. This episode was inspired by a conversation with one of our Ready to Lose clients. Actually, like multiple conversations with different clients, but this particular client was showing up for coaching each week, working through the Ready to Lose program, using the tools. And every time we would practice a new skill, I'd ask her how she felt about it, right? We always do this because sometimes a goal or commitment can feel like too much and it can actually keep you from taking action. And so I always check in with clients like, how are you feeling about this? What are your thoughts about it? And this client, she would say, I know I can do it. I know it's my next step and it's going to help me reach that next level, but it feels like I'm plunging off of a cliff. She felt this way when we started planning, with waiting until she was hungry to eat, with feeling her emotions on purpose instead of eating for them, with our work on cravings, with leaving 2 bites behind, all things that she accomplished one by one, but every new habit or skill that we committed to working on week after week, it always felt like a big plunge. And she's not alone with this. If you're consistently avoiding taking action on your goals or doing the things you planned, I guarantee that you are scared of what it would be like to do that thing. It's a very normal response, okay? So sometimes this fear, this plunge, it feels like fear, obviously, but sometimes it looks like confusion. Some of y'all are wandering around on the top of the cliff, confused. You're wandering around like, how do I get down here? I don't know what to do. What do I do? Because confusion feels easier than facing the fear of plunging yourself off of a cliff. Okay, think about moments when you're overthinking how much water you should be drinking, or what the right foods are that you should be putting on your plan, or what if I get hungry later, or what are the right eating windows I should be eating in. A lot of confusion and a lot of not doing anything. But here's the kicker with this client. She'd be stressing and stressing about this plunge that she was going to take, and then she would do it. She'd work on that skill, do her homework for the week, and almost every single time, she would come back and say, that was way easier than I thought it was going to be. It wasn't so much of a plunge as it was a step. So many of us are holding ourselves back from that next step because it feels like we're plunging ourselves off of a cliff. But you're not. It is just a step. It is just your next step. So if you're not at your goal, I guarantee you're avoiding some action in your life with your food or your habits. You're waiting to feel ready. You want it to feel exciting or easy. You want to know exactly what it'll be like to throw yourself off this cliff. But you can spend forever waiting and thinking and considering and preparing, and it will still feel scary. It will still feel confusing. It will still be uncomfortable. And often, the longer you put that thing off, the bigger and bigger it feels. I know you've done this, at least with work. This is where tends to come up with people, right? You avoid responding to someone, you avoid getting started on a project, and then it just feels bigger and bigger, harder and harder to get started on that thing. It feels like this massive, difficult thing that you have to do, but when you finally do it, it was nothing. It did not take as long as you thought. It was not as hard as you thought. So if you want to feel more confident and capable around food, you first have to have the courage to take the plunge. Sometimes it does feel like a big drop. I won't say it never does, but a lot of the time it's just a step. You're already more capable than you're giving yourself credit for. So what have you been scared to do? Maybe it's leaving food behind or serving yourself a little less at dinner just to see if you're actually hungry for all that food you keep eating. Maybe it's writing a food plan for the first time. Maybe it's signing up for a free session to learn more about coaching. The step of giving yourself the tools and accountability to take plunge after plunge to help you reach that goal faster and more efficiently than you can on your own. Whatever it is, I want you to take action on that thing this week. It might feel like a plunge, but I guarantee it's just a step that you are capable of taking. You will survive. So until next week, remember, you've totally got this, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.